Namaskar, a very pleasant morning. Warm greetings from DELNET Developing Library Network, New Delhi, India, a major resource sharing library network which connects more than 9,000 institutions spread across the country and also many other countries. Esteemed Mr. Emily Drabinski, the immediate past president, American Library Association, ALA, USA, and associate professor, Queens College, Graduate School of Library and Information Studies, New York, USA. Shri K. Jayakumar, President DELNET, Dr. S.S. Murthy, Vice President, Dr. P.R. Goswami, Treasurer, Professor Jean-Charles Lemerel from University of Strasbourg, France, Dr. Debel C. Carr, the University Librarian, Galgotias University, Greater Noida, the eminent librarians, library and information science professionals, heads of various departments of library and information science, technology experts, faculty members, researchers, and scholars, the library staff colleagues, at Galgotia University, Greater Noida, my own DELNET staff colleagues at its head office here at New Delhi, and also its coordination units in Bangalore and Pune, ladies and gentlemen. I, Dr. Sangeeta Kaul, Director DELNET, on behalf of DELNET Developing Library Network, extends a very warm, hearty welcome to all of you for joining us today in person at DELNET, New Delhi here, and also online from different parts of India and many other countries, including Bangladesh, Bhutan, Canada, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Mali, Nigeria, Pakistan, Singapore, Sri Lanka, UAE, and USA, at the 26th DELNET Annual Lecture, which will be delivered by our most distinguished speaker, Professor Emily Drabinski, on Sharing as Strength, Libraries as Connection Machines. We would like to express our very warm, sincere gratitude and thanks to Professor Emily Drabinski, who is in India for past 1 week for ILPS 2024 conference, and for acceding to our request to deliver the most prestigious DELNET Annual Lecture 2024. We remain ever grateful to you for your very gracious and incredible support, Professor Drabinski. Thank you so very much for your very kind acceptance and for your very gracious presence with us here at DELNET New Delhi. The entire participants joins me in welcoming Professor Drabinski to today's session. And also, it's very heartening, to know that this is the maiden visit of Professor Drabinski, and we really look forward to having her back here again in India quite often. We extend a very warm welcome to you once again, and thank you so very much for making it possible to have you with us. Thank you so very much indeed. Our very special thanks also to the Galgotia University, Greater Noida, and my very, very special thanks to no one else. And yes, then Dr. Debel C. Carr, very expert, one of a person who has been of immense support to DELNET for making it possible for us to have Professor Drabinski with us, and we remain ever grateful to you for your very kind support to us. I would like to apprise you all that DELNET has been organizing the annual lectures since 1998. These lectures have been delivered in the past by the eminent experts, including Dr. V.S. Arunachalam, Distinguished Services Professor at Carnegie Mellon University, Dr. N. Sheshagiri, Founder Director, Journal National Informatics Center, Professor V.S. Prasad, Director, NAC, Mr. Stephen Abraham, President, Special Libraries Association, USA, Mr. Brent May, the President, SLA, Dr. Gulshan Rai, Director, Journal ICER, Mr. Brian Gambles, Executive Director, Library of Birmingham, UK, Dr. Heather Brown, Assistant Director, Arts Lab, Australia, Mrs. Anjana Bhatt, University Librarian, Florida Gulf Coast University, Florida, USA, Dr. Camilla Elire, the former President of American Library Association, Professor Boyne Kim, CTO and Associate Professor, University of Rhode Island in Libraries in USA, Mrs. Trish Hamford, Director, Policy and Education, Australian Library and Information Association, Dr. Esther Omila Clercros, Head of Territorial Planning and Quality Library Services at Barcelona in Spain. We have profound honor and privilege in having with us today Professor Emily Drabinski, who is a well-known global expert and being known for her remarkable contributions to the world of libraries. I take immense pleasure in introducing Professor Emily Drabinski, who is an Associate Professor at the Queens College Graduate School of Library and Information Studies in New York City. Professor Drabinski publishes and presents widely on critical perspectives in librarianship with an emphasis on the role of gender and sexuality in knowledge production and dissemination. Professor Drabinski has been the immediate past president of the American Library Association, USA. It's a profound honor and pleasure for me now to request Professor Drabinski to deliver the 26th DELNET Annual Lecture. May I have a pleasure of requesting you to kindly deliver the 26th DELNET Annual Lecture. Over to you.
So much for the invitation to be here, and it is really my profound honor to be here on my first trip to India, which already I know will not be my last. I want to extend first my deep thanks to Dr. Sangeeta Kaul for inviting me to join you here today, and of course to Dr. Carr for the initial invitation which brought me here to share my thoughts on librarianship, but to my mind the more important piece to hear about what library services look like in India and in this part of the world, because I believe, as my presentation will focus on today, that the connections that libraries make possible are the most important work that we do. And I also would like to thank Dr. Abida Durrani also for ensuring that my passage here has been smooth, and I could not be more grateful for your time and assistance. Before I begin, I'd like to just share a little bit on my thoughts around this term connection. I chose this as a theme for the lecture because of the important, powerful work that DELNET does. When I look at what DELNET accomplishes, connecting more than 9,000 libraries across India and across the world, not only to the resources that you provide, but also the connections to each other, are the most important piece of the project of librarianship. I know we're joined online by so many people from all over the world. It's that connection, the time that we spend together and the time that we'll spend together this morning and this afternoon, that makes librarianship incredible work. In fact, resource sharing, which is what is the priority here at DELNET, that is what libraries do best. I'll be sharing examples of the kinds of connections we make in libraries in the US, but I think the resource sharing is at the top of the list. I know that I can get information from a library anywhere in the world, really. I think that's what makes us amazing, is that I know that following this presentation this time here in India, I could contact Dr. Carr and say, can you assist me with locating the document? And I'm pretty sure, am I right, that you would assist me in that? Mm-hmm. And I think that kindness that we show to each other and the collegiality that we show to each other, we're a model for the rest of the world. The ways that we share and the ways that we connect. If only every industry and every profession did the kind of sharing and connection that we do in libraries. What I'll be sharing today are some perspectives that I gained during my term as the American Library Association president, a term I served last June to July in one of the most profound professional honors of my career. I spent my time focused on exactly what we're doing here today, meeting each other, talking with one another, connecting with each other across difference and across distance. The capstone of my presidential year was last June, where I drove with a colleague of mine from George Washington University in the US and a filmmaker named Nikita C. Carpenter. We got in a van and we drove. We drove from Rhode Island, which you'll see represented by that orange dot on the far right, all the way to our annual conference at ALA in San Diego, California. I'll admit here that I'm not a terrific driver, not my skill set really. I learned to only during the pandemic when it was clear that driving would allow me to leave my home a little more easily. But I sure learned how to be a great driver on this trip. We traveled 4,951 miles, which is close to 7,700 kilometers on the drive. And we wanted to traverse the physical landscape to make clear that it is those kinds of traversals that are the most important work that we do. It took me 18 hours to get here to Delhi. It will take me 22 hours to get home. And each one of those seconds really is about making real the fact that we aren't so far away from one another. So on the drive, and I drove the vast majority of those 7,700 kilometers, we visited libraries in 11 American states, and talking to library workers in school, public, and academic libraries about the important work that was happening. What I found was an extraordinary commitment to each other, to our community, people that we serve, and the places that we serve, all of it grounded in a very material reality of what library workers are facing in libraries across the country, and I've come to understand in libraries across the world. So I'll share a few reflections on that time. So, the number is even higher than I thought, almost 8,000 kilometers, me behind the wheel. We recorded those interviews and it generated more than 90 hours of video footage from 3 different cameras. I also learned a lot about how difficult it is to record information to make the sound and video available. And so we're working right now on a documentary film that will document the power of libraries. The working title of the film is "This Place is Our Place," a reminder that libraries belong to all of us, everyone in the community. And we intend to be finished with the film by the end of next year, and at which point we will make the film openly available to be screened in every community in the world. I believe the stories that we tell about ourselves are crucial to gaining the material support we need to do our best work. It isn't enough to simply say libraries are great. It's not enough to offer statistics of our value. In fact, we need to drive policy change and policy support by better articulating the value that we bring to our communities. And I think one of the ways we do that is by telling stories. And so I'm hopeful that this film will be of value to libraries across the world as we look to make our case for why we're still relevant, why we matter, why we're the singularly most important institution that keeps higher education going, that keeps communities going, that keeps publics connected and involved. One of the ways that libraries connect are through our work as preservers of cultural memory. And it's so good to have someone here today who I just met over tea, who's doing the hard work of digitizing collections here in India and making the cultural memory of this country available to everyone. This is an image of the Mann, West Virginia Public Library. Mann, West Virginia is a tiny, tiny town, population 450, in a rural part of West Virginia in coal country. This has been devastated multiple times by the impacts of climate change and the impacts of unregulated mining industry that resulted in a flood in 1976 when 2 mines, after being checked by government regulators and signed off on as safe, just a handful of days later, 2 dams broke, releasing water and coal slurry into the town, flooding the community. Many lives were lost, upwards of 30, and homes and buildings were destroyed. During our time in Mann, we interviewed a survivor of the flood who described watching her uncle hold on to the back of a truck while his home was flooded away. This kind of devastation is too common in our communities. I'm sure that most of us in the room have a story of someone whose livelihood has been disrupted by flood, by fire, by wind. And as the climate continues to change, I think we can anticipate those problems getting worse. So when we visited this public library, we saw all the things that great libraries do. Connecting people to resources, that's what we do. Scholars need help accessing big data sets, we connect them. Academics need to learn how to use AI and artificial intelligence tools in their work. It's on us as library workers to make that happen. In this library, the librarian worked hard to connect children to reading. She has literacy programs that she runs. She distributes food aid and medical care out of the library in the form of Narcan, which can reverse opioid overdoses, which is common in her community. She's designed a collection and a space that meets the needs of everyone in her town. She's done the hard work of maintaining the documents and materials that from the time of the flood, a time that was clearly still in the minds of the people that we talked to. The survivor we spoke with started weeping as she told her story. The presence, even though it's been decades since the flood, still very much on her mind. But the library has made sure that all of the documentation of that time, photographs, newspaper articles, magazine coverage, video footage, that there's a place where that material can live inside of the community, and it lives inside of the library in Man. So while it lacks the grandeur of a great state library or the Library of Congress or any of the libraries that I've seen while I've been here in Delhi, it's equally important. The librarian brought us to a part of the library where it's really just a file cabinet where she keeps all of those documents, and it's for her to look at. But as she said, the library collects our memory and holds on to it until we're ready to reckon with it. So there's always a place in the library, in the community, where people can connect to themselves, to each other, and to their own history. Libraries as forms of cultural memory. I've been so impressed by the digitization work I've been seeing in libraries across India, and that work could not be more important. It connects us, it makes a connection between the present, the past, and the present. The second way that we saw libraries connecting was as a social safety net for people in communities. This is the Rossville Community Library in Rossville, Kansas. This is a slightly larger community, about 1,200 people, most of whom live and work in Rossville and have for generations. This is a community that has been ravaged by poverty, like a lot of rural communities in the United States, and probably many rural communities here in India as well. And the librarian, Christy, works hard to make sure that her libraries connects people not just to books and reading, but also to the material means to live full lives. So I'll give you two examples that we learned from Rossville. The first is a program that Christy runs called Snack Attack. Snack Attack is a fun program that's exciting for kids, and it's a place where they can go after school to keep connecting with each other and hanging out, a place that is safe, where their parents know that they'll be okay. In fact, the library did such good work here that we heard that someone said that when I don't know where my kid is, when I don't know where Charlie is, I know I can just call down to the library. And Christy will say, oh, yes, he was just here. He's on his way to the corner store. Snack Attack, which she understood, Christy, the librarian, as a fun, exciting after-school program. When we interviewed other members of the community, they understood it very clearly as a project and program meant to address hunger in her community. They recognize that people don't always have access to food. That's not something everyone has in their refrigerators or in their homes. And some people just simply can't afford anything beyond the school food that is made available each day. So the library has stepped in with a Snack Attack program, which means that every child in the Rossville community can come to the library and alleviate their hunger. She was also a really big fan of stuffed animals. I don't know if other people are fans of stuffed animals, but she loves her stuffies, and she brings them to the library where they live in the children's room as part of the ways that she connects her library to children. She told us a story about a child coming into her library one day with a stuffed animal and handing it to her and saying, can my stuffed animal spend the night in this library? If they spend the night in the library, I know that they'll be safe. That the library can make to people and to safety. It's important for children. And I know many of you are probably thinking, well, I work in an academic library. How is this relevant? But think about all of the ways there are libraries simply by offering and providing space to people. No more than that, but a space to sit down. that how powerful that can be as a way to make sure that students have a place to go, that they have a place to be together, where their right to sit and read and learn and think, to be safe in their own minds, is provided for them by the library. That social safety net piece is a huge part of how we connect to our communities and how we connect to each other. An image from Clayton High School just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. This is a school library in a state that has faced increasing challenges to the right to read. This is an issue in the United States. I'm not sure how much of this is happening in other libraries in other parts of the world, but I suspect we're all interested and have reasons to fight for the right to for everyone to have literacy and to have the right to read what they want to read. The United States over the past 4 years has been subject to an intensifying attack on the right to read, a growing censorship program that has made life challenging for librarians in places like Missouri. This state passed a law a couple of years ago that requires every librarian to review their collections in school libraries and remove any books that might have evidence of human sexuality. Now, you might think, and I think and would agree, that keeping sexual ideas out of the hands of young children is important. Every librarian knows this. It's not a problem in American libraries. It's a sort of invented problem, I think. And what the result has been is that school librarians all across the state have been forced to look through every single book in their collection and remove anything that has any depiction of nudity. Think about all of the great art in the history of the world that has depictions of nudity. Think about your biology textbooks or an anatomy book where you're simply trying to teach someone how to understand human anatomy, a science text. All of these books have been under threat in the libraries in the state of Missouri. When we went to Clayton, we talked with the librarian there, Tom Bober, who is a prominent American school librarian who does exceptional work expanding school libraries all across the world, and has just launched a new program to expand school library access in Africa. And he talked to us about how librarians in the state are connecting around this problem rather than pretending it isn't happening or simply complying with a law that is unjust. They're working together and working with the students in their classrooms to organize and fight back and to ensure that everyone has the right to read the books that they want to read. What was most impressive on our stop in Clayton was not just the librarian, but the students. The value of the library because they've been connected to the library by the librarian, and they understand how important it is to stay connected to them, to the fight, right? So we interviewed 3 students who talked about how much they love to read. And I think we were just talking before tea about that reading piece that we need really care about that as librarians, don't we? Yes, we're crucial. Reading is crucial. We know how fundamental it is to not just being able to communicate with one another and consume information, but also to produce information, to tell stories, to shape the imagination. And those students were really, through the organizing of the librarian, connected to that fight for the right to read. Each of them had emotional stories to tell about how crucial libraries are. On our way out west, this is an image of the Thomas Brannigan Memorial Library in New Mexico in the United States, in Albuquerque. This library was organized, interestingly, similar to the way that the Ministry of Culture organizes the public libraries here in Delhi, I learned. It is not just the library, but it's organized under a Ministry of Culture in the state of New Mexico. And that agency is run by a former president of the American Library Association named Carol Bray. Carol is dynamic, she's funny, she's a foodie, she's wonderful the way most librarians are. I'm a little bit biased. And she was the president of the American Library Association during a time of threats to the right to privacy. We know that it's fundamental to to our reading life, that we're able to read what we want and keep that reading private. And it's a value that we hold very dear at the American Library Association, that everyone has a sovereign right to their own minds, and that our job as librarians is to connect them to that private right, as well as to a broader reading public, which is also important. In 2001, the United States government passed a law that said that anyone could look into the library records of anyone who checked out a book and see what they were reading. And Carol was, at the time, working as a librarian in El Paso, Texas, and someone came to her library and demanded to see what other people in the library had been borrowing. So you can imagine this violation of the American Library Association Bill of Rights made Carol very angry, and she also was very committed to maintaining the values of American libraries and worked hard to ensure that the records could be kept private. So as we talked to her, she saw that there are always threats to things that are part of the Bill of Rights of librarians, including attempts to eliminate the right to the privacy of our reading lives. So talking with Carol about her work and the work that she's doing in the Thomas Brannigan Memorial Library, which is a lot of what I've already shared, connecting children to reading, connecting adults to programming, connecting people to information, that remaining committed to the values of libraries in a world that frankly can be quite hostile to those values, right? And in many ways work against them. We learned some important, valuable lessons from her time. An image of librarians at the Page Public Library in Page, Arizona. You'll see a very diverse, lively set of smiles, and this library won the Best Small Library in the United States award from the Library Journal in 2023. So we thought, we've got to see this library. Page Public Library sits at the nexus of three different sort of geographic locations. It's located in the city of Page, which is adjacent to national parkland, the Colorado River Valley, and it's also adjacent to Navajo Nation, which is an independent indigenous country inside of the United States. These librarians sit at those boundaries and sit at those borders and connect across them, rather than keeping their vision of the library restricted to just the people of Page. They've done the difficult work of connecting across those boundaries, which I also think is an important thing that we do as librarians, that we're doing, in fact, right here today during this DELNET conversation. The librarians here offer programming to children, they offer food aid, they always have a jigsaw puzzle going, a very expansive sense of how the library can serve the community. I want to encourage us to think about that as librarians, who are often quite constrained in our vision of what we can do. We imagine that we're only there to promote reading. And while that's crucial and important, we also need to attend to the reasons people can't read, right? Which is having a difficult time accessing the library because it's located somewhere far away from where you might live. This community has really rallied around the right to libraries for people in the region, making particular strides doing outreach to the communities in the Navajo Nation. So although they're located in Page, 70% of their user population comes from the Navajo Nation. They get to the library by car, they get to the library by bus, and they get to the library through the schools. The students who come into Page to go to elementary school will then go to the library after school and spend time with each other. And I think that connection across difference is really crucial and important. We often talk about how we live in a divided world, but really when we look at what librarians do, which is to connect people regardless of who we are, regardless of where we come from, even if we are very different from one another, that those connections that we make across those boundaries is real. This is an image of us at the end of our Page Public Library trip, which was the last library on the tour. We spent 26 days in a van. We were tired. I was exhausted. We'd eaten a lot of food that was not agreeing with us. We were ready to get home and get off the road. So you'll see in this image myself in the middle. That's Nikita, our filmmaker, on the far right. And then we have not just librarians here, but the immediate past president of the Arizona Library Association, the library director of the Page Community Library, the city council person for Page, and a representative from the Navajo Nation. We all came together to share stories that day. And one of the things that came out most clearly was the important role that library workers play in ensuring that all of the connections that we make possible in libraries happen through us. I want to emphasize this because I think, at least in the United States, and I'll be interested in the Q&A portion to hear from you, we often find ourselves in situations where the people who fund us, our administrative bodies, the university president or provost, doesn't see the value of the library, in some ways because we've become so good at what we do, providing access to collections that's seamless, implementing AI solutions for reference services, the important resource sharing work that happens through DELNET here, that happens through OCLC back home where I live. All of that work, it makes things seem invisible, that things just appeared. How many times, I've spent most of my career as a teaching librarian, teaching people how to use resources. How many times have people found something on Google that's only there because the library put it there, that they can only find because of the hard work of resource selection, acquisition, distribution and circulation and preservation that we make possible. That's important work. So I can sit in New York City and do a quick Google search and come up with a historic document that's been digitized in Rajasthan and read it instantly. And I think we run into problems because people imagine that that instantness is an accident, that it's just how technology works. But you know, and I know how difficult that work is, how hard it is to keep up with the technological transformations, how difficult it is to keep up with our community needs as curriculum change, as areas of research change. And I'm so interested in the one nation, one subscription policy that sounds like will be coming from the federal government here, and what will that mean for academic library services in the country of India? And it's been telling, everyone I talk to says, we don't know yet because it hasn't happened, but all of us now have to do, every librarian in the country has to do the work of understanding how that will shape your work going forward. That's a lot, right? We have many burdens on our services, but it's us, right? The hard work that we do is what makes it possible to implement a program like that, to implement any of the innovative technology solutions I've learned about during my visit here in India, that make possible the digitization of history and the access to cultural memory, the access to a social safety net, the access to all of that relies on library workers like you and library workers like me. So as we tell the story of the power of libraries through this film and through this journey, we're very focused on ensuring that it's the stories of librarians that we tell, because we are, I believe, the most important workers in any country, and our institutions are important in ways that we still don't fully understand, I think, especially given the social transformations that all of us are undergoing. So I'll leave you with this final shot. This is me celebrating. We've made our final stop, and we're about to drive this van and drop it off at the car rental at the airport and be done with our trip. So I am joyful, not just for the fact that I get to go home and see my cat, who I love very much, but also the joy at having captured so much of the stories of what American libraries do for their communities, what libraries all over the globe do for their communities, a story that I look forward to continuing to tell and just can't wait to be able to tell similar stories about what I've seen in India once I get home. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so very much, Professor Drabinski, for delivering such an incredible, impactful DELNET annual lecture, the 26th annual lecture of ours. We remain truly grateful to you, and you have strongly resonated each and everything that you spoke here about, just centers around the connections, building connections, and to how the libraries and most importantly the professionals, each one of us, have to have to play that important role of nurturing, the connections, and we ourselves should remain as the best human, not only the networkers, but also the human connectors. So connecting humanity as we could well can. That has been a strong message coming out from the annual lecture that yes, we have to be all the time working for humanity and work in building up those connections, working more as it's not only the bridging up the technologies, it's more to do bridging up, the communities as such, as you have pointed it out, very aptly, that libraries have to play, each one of us have to play connecting the past with the future. So it's like we act as a bridge. We as a professionals have to act as a bridge. I must say that out of the 26 annual lectures since 1998, DELNET has been organizing, this particular, the topic that you chose, when I still remember when we exchanged emails and I asked you that what is a topic on which you may like to speak, you having such a great expertise. And I was just thinking that, let's see, what Professor Drabinski may like to speak, on this. And I was simply amazed to see that there can never be anything so close with the vision and mission of DELNET, sharing as strength. As you have pointed it out, this resource sharing, which remains as a major factor, but besides at the back end, works that strong connections. We cannot think about, we as each one of us, we do engage in the processes, but most important factor remains is not only connecting those content networking, bringing the libraries closer. The most important aspect, which you have highlighted today, that libraries becomes the epicenter. Each one of us should feel that very strongly, that we are the connectors. We should not just think about that we are a professional who is undertaking, the work. We should more think about that we are being here in this profession and being meant to connect, to establish new connections for collaborations, and it's healing the society by bringing everyone together. Thank you so very much for making it possible for us, each one of us, to engage in more introspection. I think you have given us ample thoughts, which each one of us would like to ponder about, that how far have we gone in achieving that real task, the real mission of being in this profession, for building those connections. Are we able to really contribute in those significant and meaningful manner in connecting the dots? If you can see the backdrop, this is for you, Professor Drabinski, with a warm admiration for you. If you see here the backdrop which has been chosen, it was not just simply making a backdrop for you, for the talk. You can see over here, we have the dots being the sparkling dots which are being there. That denotes each one of us. And yes, there are also the connections being there. There are the dotted lines which are being there, those threads connecting. We feel truly blessed having you. We are able to connect with you. We are able to have you here. That's again surely out of the connections that we have been able to establish. And that's meant for something more, not only the better, but for building up something constructive. This talk of yours has truly made each one of us to start thinking more in terms of working in contributing and to and to connect those dots which we find all the time. in the form of our users, bringing them together. We remain ever grateful to you for such a truly illuminating talk of yours, which completely, is in line with the DELNET's, the mission and the vision of the organization. And we remain truly grateful to you for your time and efforts in being there. And this was going to resonate forever. Your thoughts are going to inspire us always to carry on this vision of networking the libraries. Sharing is caring. Resource sharing we engage with, but yes, we have to be the firm believers in the fact that sharing is caring. And you have demonstrated that. There could have never been any better ways. And you have shown that you have been so gracious and kind in being there, sharing your expertise, your knowledge, your thoughts. For which we remain ever grateful. Not only DELNET, but the entire fraternity, we remain truly grateful to you for acceding to our request and being there. And this is to share with each one of you that Professor Drabinski is extensively traveling, and that speaks volumes of her commitment to connect. Please put your hands together to give a very special big applause for Professor Drabinski. Remain truly, truly grateful, to you. Thank you so very much once again. With your permission now, we would like to make the floor open for questions. And firstly, we have our colleagues here in person who had joined us at New Delhi office and being here. And also we have our online attendees who are being there, making the floor open for questions and requesting you, please introduce yourself and requesting to keep the questions very brief, because I would just like to mention, because Professor Drabinski has yet another engagement. It's quite a rush period for us. So she has yet another engagement this afternoon. So we have to ensure that we are in a position another half an hour's time maximum, we have to wind up. So I'm requesting you, please introduce yourself and ask the question. Like you mentioned about one nation, one policy. How is that going to help in connecting the libraries?
No, that is my question for you. I think making sure that everyone has equitable access to resources has to be at the ground of what we do as librarians. So, but I don't know enough about the policy to see, and when I ask people, they say we will see, but I think a commitment to ensuring equitable access to information for everyone, that has to be our core mission as librarians.
Thank you very much. We would now like to make the floor open for questions from our online attendees, requesting you please raise your digital hand and so that we can pass on the rights to you to pose your question. This is for our online attendees. If you are wanting to ask any question, we request you please raise your digital hand so that we can give you a control. To take one question from in-person, one question from the online, and that's how we would like to take the Kundane. Mr. Yogesh Kundane, could you please unmute yourself? We have unmuted you. Mr. Unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Yogesh Kundane, madam. No, madam.
So Yogesh, do you want to ask any question?
No, madam.
Perfect, yeah.
I was thinking about how difficult connections are to make as I crossed the street. I took a little walk this morning, And I'm not used to crossing the street in India, and it's feels a little. I'm not used to it, right? And there was a lot of dodging and a lot of showing my hand, and I think that kind of like it's a metaphor for how difficult connection can be. And then it's our task to sort of build a bridge over a walking bridge between places. Connection is hard, right? And we see that here.
We have our colleague, who may like to ask a question. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, this is a wonderful lecture. I'm Anup Kumar Das from JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Question is related to funding models of public libraries in the US. In India, we have funding models. State governments, they support the public library, not the central government. Who is the funder for the public library? Whether philanthropic institutions are also funding the public library?
Funding of public libraries in the United States. In the US, public libraries are mostly funded by municipalities. So cities, through taxation, invest in the library. In some places, that funding is quite robust and permanent. In the state of Iowa, there is a piece of legislation in the whole state that requires every municipality of a certain size to commit a certain percentage of their budget to funding the public library. And what that means is that Iowa has 400 public libraries in a state that has, a few million people, like a state with a population smaller than you have here in Delhi. But it comes from having the dedicated funding in the law. So in the last legislative season, there was an attempt to change the language of that funding mechanism from must commit a certain percentage to should commit a certain percentage. There was a lot of organizing around the change of that one word, because we know if we open the door to removing funding for the public library, many people will take it, right? Because there are many competing social needs. We need a public library, but we also need a public park, we need public roads, we need all kinds of institutions. And so fighting to ensure that that funding is stable, that's been a priority in Iowa. But you can contrast Iowa with West Virginia, which has no such legislation, which means that every municipality can decide whether or not to fund the library, and you see a fraction of the number of libraries in that state. And you see like declining, West Virginia has a very low literacy rate compared to the rest of the United States. And I think that has a lot to do with funding for the library.
I'd like to request Mr. Venkateshwarlu, who has joined us online. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Venkatesh. This is for you, Mr. Venkateshwarlu. We are connected right now. Please introduce yourself. This is for you, Mr. Venkateshwarlu, please. Mr. Venkatesh, do you have a question to ask? Anyone else here may like to ask a question? Yeah, please. Introduce yourself firstly, maybe.
My name is Ayan Mandal. I'm from Tuli Research Center for India Studies. So since most of your first half of the presentation was there for children libraries, so out of my curiosity, I want to know that ALA and American School Library Association, they are somehow under the same umbrella, or they are interconnected, or they are separate?
A very good question. Libraries often stay in their silos. Academics talk to academics, school librarians talk to schools. But in the US, the American Library Association is the umbrella. And then there are divisions within that, a division of academic librarians, a division of public, a division of school. And so it ends up being sort of siloed. They continue to only talk to each other, kind of. But the work of the association is to bring them together. because we know that students come from the school, right? And all of the work that happened inside the school library, then they come to the academic library, bringing those information skills, and then go on after academic libraries to public libraries and into business and industry and whatever profession using the public library. If we think about libraries across the lifespan, it's really important to connect them all. So the American Library Association had a couple of years ago funded a library ecosystem project that sought to bring a sort of ecosystem model to how we think about libraries rather than staying in our silos. Have different associations for school.
There in the school I used to have.
Ah, okay.
Now I'm
So
in the
generally-
research library. So.
Okay.
The school libraries, no, they're not really in that good shape and not much
Okay.
ground to cover, yeah, for them.
It's
Yeah,
very
so-
similar
yeah,
in the
yeah,
United
yeah,
States.
yeah.
The private school libraries, they are funding good amount of in the research.
I have seen that, yeah, that international school libraries,
right.
global school libraries are
Particularly
very
the,
strong.
Lot much to-
international baccalaureate schools, and they are
Yes.
funding good amount. In the library.
Since you are here, would like to ask you one question, which is more to do with the international collaborations for upskilling and reskilling of allies professionals. Since you are associate professor in one of the leading institutions there, how do you think that this global collaborations to happen between the organizations, library associations, especially for upskilling and reskilling of our library professionals? And do we have through ALA, because organization like DELNET, we are very much keen enough to initiate some global partnerships, especially to undertake some programs in some of the 3 or 4 areas for the library and information science professionals here, which not necessarily, to be done just simply online. We really also want to see that maybe perhaps a year-long or a 6-month program wherein they also get an international exposure to go and visit the libraries, and fairly a good part of it, to run. So just wants to ask you, how well ALA does ALA support, or besides ALA, we know that, the University of Indiana, I was there in 2012, this international visitors leadership program, which I got and had interactions in those times, but it couldn't really, we couldn't really come to some very solid, kind of an association. Means we just want to know, because we're really wanting, to see to it that we can undertake, some kind of collaborative programs in some of the leading, library science schools there in US, and wherein it's like getting benefited, out of, the expertise which is being there, and more also to do with the emerging topics which are now being there, So how well, being in US, how well the library science departments, how do you keep on updating your course syllabus, and also more so, how to engage in this knowledge sharing among the library departments, and that is also the cross border. How do you think that we can build up, or ALA or any other organizations in US, are they into this kind of associations?
Yes, when I traveled as ALA president, I visited libraries in the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Belgium, Canada, Mexico, so many, and then rural libraries across the U.S. And I've got this question everywhere I went. Because we know how rapidly the field changes, how quickly it turns over, and how much all of us need that kind of upskilling and reskilling. Like I need it, like all of us need it. So the American Library Association has a robust collection of professional development resources, but this question of what could we develop that would be a global course is absolutely something that we're working on and talking about, because it's so necessary. And I think that global exchange is really necessary also. So I was at the ILIP seminar or conference earlier or last week. I've lost track of time. That was a few days ago, right? And heard an amazing presentation by a colleague who had used a specialized vocabulary called Homosaurus, a linked data vocabulary, right? And it had been developed in North America and Europe, and so therefore wasn't compliant with a global standard that was used in the rest of the world. And it's the kind of thing that you only learn about that through global collaboration, which is why it's so important. And now we see Homosaurus developing a standard that will enable it to be used in libraries in India. So how do we make those global connections? I think it's not enough to have online. We need to be with one another, right? Like what I have learned simply by spending time with you is powerful. So I think building those kinds of global programs is absolutely on the mind of ALA. We are addressing some questions around that at our next executive board meeting in December, and I anticipate, all of these things take time and resources to build, but I couldn't agree more that those global collaborations are necessary. And I'd love to see a kind of exchange program, speaking as a faculty member at Queens College, to come to ILIPS and meet a colleague from Bangladesh of a colleague of mine in Queens, demonstrated that those connections are there already. So it's simply a matter of activating them and fully resourcing them so that we can get the full benefit from the connections that already exist.
In your perspective, the impact of AI on the libraries, and also whether in US, departments of library science, have we incorporated, AI now also as one of the course components? Have you started doing that or started thinking in those lines? Maybe we had a speaker at ILIPS the other day, had heard from NTU Singapore, who said that yes, they are now making it mandatory, that irrespective of any of the course that a student is being enrolled into, they have to learn AI as a tool. So what are we doing there in US, especially in our library science department?
I'm 50 years old. I've been doing this for a couple of decades, and I'm kind of done learning new technologies, I say to myself. And then we are confronted with the fact that we must eternally learn and internally engage those new questions. I think that I don't know quite how to integrate that into teaching and learning. I think it is clear that it is will be widely used as a research tool, but how that will.
No, whether we have, what I was trying to inquire was whether we have introduced AI also now as a topic in
LIS. So not as a standalone course, and I think we're still talking at Queens College certainly about how to integrate it. I think what we learned from Singapore at ILIPS, that it isn't something that only the library can do, but that must be addressed in every part of the academy, is definitely real. But we know our students are asking about it. Our students really are demanding it, and employers are looking for library professionals who brings AI literacy skills, and but we have not at Queens College quite figured out how to do that. Because the question is always, do I have a freestanding course? I teach the core courses in reference and user services. So, for me, the question is, how is AI going to impact reference and user services? Whereas our cataloging professor is interested in how it will impact cataloging, and those are two different things. So I suspect that what we'll do is integrate AI as a topic in courses across the curriculum rather than something. Is that what's happening here?
Yes. Here in we are into, we are all being now deliberating more into it. But yes, as a research tool, definitely. But I think again, there's more ethical use of AI. One also has to look into that, even the research ethics when we think about, and then what AI is. So it's like, are we really helping the users, or are we in some ways contributing our scholarly community to do, more of the shortcuts, for their research? The real research work, means it's also to do with this. There's not much of ethics in a way, because we are just bringing them. It's like an abstract knowledge we are getting them.
Yeah.
So that's also, there is an other side of the the coin, when we think about the technologies, but to which extent? So are we is it working more as an enhancers, or are we also compromising on the quality of as an individual, as a knowledge seeker? So are we inspiring them? We are inspiring them to do what exactly? Means
right. Yes, and I think that role of librarians that librarians play in the ethical piece of new technologies. Like I think often about what we value in libraries, which are values that are not shared in all
Exactly,
industries,
yes.
right? That commitment to equity, that commitment to inclusion, that commitment to sharing makes us always think about the ethics of the tools that we use. And I think we have a real responsibility to be thinking and teaching about that.
And I think, yeah, because the world is now all being moving into the data. So I think that we as a library professionals have to also very clearly should be able to convey that there's a lot much of difference between the data, information, and knowledge. And I think, this has to be, because entire world, we are just concentrating and putting our entire focus on the data. It's not, there is no intelligence, which is coming into, and there is that knowledge. Where is that knowledge, lost in information, so it's just like we are very superficial, in a way, handling with a so-called introduction of the technologies. So somehow I think there should be deep thought to also get into those aspects, that what ultimately are we doing, with our own thinking, whether
Yes,
our
absolutely. Like what meaning are we making
yeah.
from what we read and write and think, and that, we're talking right now in Delhi, right, in a country that has a 4,000-year history of making meaning through language, and that's not going to go away just because of AI. But we have to be the stewards of that, I think.
So much. Any questions from here in person? We could start here. One of our in-person colleague here would like to ask. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Om Prakash. I am a student at Delhi University. I am currently pursuing MLIS. So, as a student, I wanted to know about the further studies if we want to have in USA, a few universities or scholarships. Maybe that will help us if you want to further for studies. We can because we are lacking some kind of, if you want a global perspective. So I wanted if there is something like I heard of Fulbright scholarship. Maybe is there any IS professional options for there, or what are the opportunities there?
You're right that the Fulbright program offers quite a bit of assistance for people who want to come and learn and study in the U.S. My program at Queens College, we're hosting a scholar from Poland this year, and we may be hosting someone from Sweden next year. I can just say in my classes, I have a student from Delhi this semester, as well as a couple of students from Ukraine and a student from Korea. So ours is a very international program simply because Queens, New York is a very international place. I myself live in a Bangladeshi neighborhood in Brooklyn, so lots of community and connections there. I do think like every institution will have a different sort of approach. I think the University of Illinois has a pretty strong international student effort in their program. But we should talk.
We have our online participant, Mr. Sanjay. Digital hand, and this is for you, Mr. Sanjay Kumar. Could you please, Kumar, who has raised his digital, unmute yourself and ask your question. Please unmute Sanjay. If not, colleague, who may like to else in person, I'll give you anyone here. MH Rafaul Keburi, Rafaul Joe. Happen. They just want to see that,
Oh, yeah.
how a particular, yes. This is out of curiosity. Yeah, it happens. We have Dr. Kumar A. I'm extremely sorry, I can't give you an audio control. There is no audio device being attached. Mr. Praveen Bangare. Mr. Praveen Bangare, I hope so that you are wanting to ask a question and hence, yeah, we are connected, Mr. Praveen.
Hello. Yes, madam. Yes,
You want
madam.
to ask any question, Mr. Praveen?
No, madam.
Oh, why did you then raise your digital hand, Praveen? Thank you. Is he?
I always click every button. I've always have my hand up.
Again, to connect with you, this is for you, Richa Gautam. What really happens in the online?
This is why we need to be together.
Yes. Here in person, someone wants to ask any question? Yeah, we have Sanna. Yeah, Sanna, please introduce yourself. You have got a mic there at the back. Yeah.
Now from All India Council for Technical Education. Sorry, the position over there. My question is, we are talking about sharing is caring. So how does it contribute to social cohesiveness and collective progress in communities in the world?
The sharing, connect to that cohesiveness. Yeah. Yes. Very good question. And I feel concerned about some of the social and political divisions that are happening in the US right now. They're deep, right? But I think when you ask people how they feel about the library, they love it. So the American Library Association, when the censorship crisis first got started, they did a survey of people asking, do you trust your librarians to deliver information, quality information, or I forget what the question was, and something like 63% said yes. So that's a good number, it's a majority. But a year later, the Michigan Library Association in the US did a survey that was very similar after a year of the censorship crisis, which in some ways gave us a platform to talk more about what libraries do. So they ran that survey and the number had gone up, right, to like 83%. And then this past year, the Knight Foundation did a survey asking people, do you trust your librarians? And the number was even higher in the 90%. Because I think when people are asked to reflect on what the library contributes to their experience, they always like it, right? Like you love it. Like who couldn't love it? Like you go into the library, it's got books, it's got aircon, there's a place for me to sit down, there's a place for me to read, there's maybe, an academic library, I meet my friends there and we study together. Like everyone loves it. So in some ways, I think the library is the pathway to the kind of unity that we need to see. We need to find the things that everybody loves. So what do people love? They love their library, they love their park, they hopefully love their school, they love their favorite, they love Pani Puri, right? Like anything that we love brings us together. And I think that the library is that piece. So that's, I think, the contribution that it can make, but it doesn't make that automatically. It makes it because you and I love the library and we go and share how much we love it with the people in our community. So in some cases, in some ways, I think when people attack the library, it's an opportunity for us to say, hey, really? Don't we all love this? Because I think the answer is usually yes.
Satna, for the question. And one thing just would like to ask you, Dr. Drabinski, this is about making libraries. We're talking about sharing as strength. We're talking about libraries as connection machines. Making the libraries as more the inclusive libraries. This is one of the aspects, on which much needs to be done. We as an organization, as a network, DELNET, we are now starting off creating a very major global portal for especially the portal which will contain, we cover around 21 different user needs, special needs of the users, because we do have a National Disability Act here also in India. I see myself in a National Library for the Blind in Utah, and we are also now trying to initiate some discussions with them, including Library of Congress, because they also have. How do you foresee, what needs to be done in making these libraries as more inclusive? Because we still, when we think about the society at large and what we as a libraries, as a librarians, as a professionals, still there is it's like have and have nots. There is not much to do in that respect. How far do you think in US the work has been, or the focus of, because there's not much also to do with the policy decision making. What has been the focus for the US library? Think about special inclusive services for our users community, which needs special people with the special needs. How far have we been able to do it in US?
I think we have quite a bit of a ways to go. I think there's a strong National Library Service for the blind and print disabled in the U.S. But libraries are local, so every library has its own sort of approach to that. But I think about accessibility, things like it starts with can a person even get to the library, right? Are those facilities in place? But I do think we think about inclusivity in a way that most other industries don't, because we are committed to serving everyone, and that's at the basis of what we do. So I was in a library in New Lebanon, New Hampshire, that circulates every year garden beds. So you can check out a garden bed and plant. And they also have a seed library, so you can check out seeds from the seed library. You can grow flowers, you can grow vegetables. And when I was talking to the librarian about how amazing it was, she said, and next year we're going to get an accessible garden bed. And I thought, well, only a librarian would look at something so incredible as a program that makes sure everyone in the community can grow food if they want to. And one who's missing from that is people do their gardening from a seated position. And so she's now fundraising to get the garden bed, which is the other piece of that, right? That accessibility and inclusivity requires resources. And I think that's probably a global problem, getting the resources we need to truly make good on our mission.
Our portal for the best practices. We sometimes feel like, these are the best of the stories that we are able to hear, and that happens when we are engaging into the discussions. But I believe, we as the professionals, as a global, it's like the entire community to come together, the library community to come together, and helping the global users. It's not like my user, your user, it's our users that we have to serve. So because these best practices, so it doesn't really get, the doesn't really go. We are able to do it within the country. There would be the best of the examples, but there are not many ample platforms wherein one can get opportunities to share that. So even organizations like ALA, and for that matter, any of the national bodies or the networks for that matter, like DELNET, I believe there has to be some strong partnerships, to get developed, basically to at least to sharing as strength, to make our libraries and our profession more stronger, and collaboratively, cohesively, to work together for our users community.
I like this idea of a portal of best practices.
Best practices, the global best practices in library and information sciences, and it can be anything and everything to do, and let everyone contribute in that way, and let many get inspired, and try to. So it's like a think globally and act locally. So you carry that global vision with you, and then you can translate that and can implement it in your local scenarios.
Yeah, I think if we don't do that, then we run the risk of a limited imagination that we can only accomplish in our library what our own minds can think. And of course, we only see a little bit of our world. And so I agree. And not all best practices will work everywhere.
Exactly,
Contexts
yes.
are really different.
Yes.
But I think there's there's a lot more in common between libraries of, like when I'm thinking about the rural libraries that I saw in the U.S. and the kinds of struggles that they're facing, it seemed very similar to what small and rural libraries are facing in the Philippines and India and other parts of the world. So draw like what you can do with a tiny amount of resources in a tiny community. That what we learn there, that's definitely scalable. We can transfer that to other libraries, and we have much to learn from each other.
Questions right now? In person, anyone would like to ask any question? This is for our online attendees now. You can always send across, because I believe that we really have got nearly 500 of professionals who are being there online. If you have any further queries, you can always drop us an email, and we'll be more than happy to get you connected with Professor Drabinski. So it seems we are towards now, because we have to ensure that Professor Drabinski has another commitment this afternoon. Well, before we conclude, I would just like to ask, out of curiosity, Professor Drabinski, what has been your impressions about visiting India for the first time? As you have come for the first time, I know that you have been here now. I believe it's more than 1 week now, and you have been traveling, and you have yet another 1 week to travel. What has been the high points of your very this a brief stay here?
Well, I saw the Taj Mahal.
Okay, great.
Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would ever see anything like that. Absolutely, just like literally took my breath away. And then, of course, the extraordinary hospitality, which I knew to expect from the other times that I've been in Asia, but just has been unparalleled in the work of Dr. Debal and his team, and the welcome that I've received here at DELNET has been impressive. And then the curiosity of the young librarians, and I see some of the folks that I've met at ILIPS here, who I know have a commitment to bringing the profession forward. As I look to just, I'm about at the middle on my downhill slide, and to see the energy and commitment and enthusiasm just has been extraordinary. This library profession is in good hands in India, and that's been wonderful.
Thank you so very much. We remain highly, highly grateful to you for your being here, and this has truly been such a memorable day, and also, for the entire fraternity here in India, that you have been able to come. And we really look forward to having you back again sometime very, very soon. Thank you very much indeed. It is a time for us to conclude the DELNET's 24th DELNET annual lecture, and with profound gratitude, we would like to present a memento to Professor Drabinski. Would also like to acknowledge the very gracious support being extended by Professor Debul Kar. It would not have been possible for us to have Professor Drabinski with us today without having him. His stupendous support that has been extended by Debul for years altogether. We remain truly grateful to you, Debul. Thank you so very much for being such a great colleague and a great supporter of DELNET. May I have a pleasure of presenting a small memento to you. We conclude the DELNET annual lecture And we really look forward to having many more opportunities to stay connected. We are always connected, and that's why we say always stay online, never go offline. And yes, Professor Drabinski has, by delivering such a most empowering and enlightening talk, has once again laid the focus that we should always remain as the connectors, as we should always be recognized and acknowledged that there can never be anyone better networkers and connectors like library and information science professionals. Let's take this pledge, let's take this resolve to keep on contributing, to the society by building up all, making them nice, beautiful, pictures out of the dots that appear everywhere. And let we be those threads of connection, the invisible one, which which should be, the 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 purpose, the purpose of being in this wonderful profession. I think each one of us, through this annual lecture, so impactfully being delivered by Professor Drabinski, we remain truly grateful to you for giving us ample reasons to do introspection, and which will keep on resonating and which will keep on inspiring us to continue on this wonderful journey of networking. Networking not only the libraries, but networking our own selves for a bigger cause, for a bigger purpose, and to create and wish for the society, wish for those changes which everyone would like to see around, but also to contribute and become that agent of that change. Thank you so very much. Once again, thank you very much, all our colleagues who have been able to join us this wonderful morning, and also all of the colleagues who have been there online, not only from India, from many other parts of the world. We remain truly grateful to you for your being there. We really look forward to seeing you back here again at 3 o'clock. We have yet another talk, which is going to be delivered. We have Professor Lamirel here, who is going to speak, this afternoon. So this is for our online colleagues who are being connected with us. We would ensure that those of our colleagues who have been here at New Delhi, we won't let you go after lunch. We would like you to continue. We know that, that has been at the very last moment that we have scheduled our 3 o'clock program. And that's again the challenges for having the intelligence in digital, injecting intelligence in digital libraries, which will be delivered by Professor Jean-Charles Lamirel at 3 o'clock from University of Strasbourg in France. So this is for the online attendees. For offline, those who are here. So you are going to be here. So, and this is for the online colleagues. Please remember that once you sign off today, you will be receiving an email from us, which will again contain the link to join at 3 o'clock. If not, you can always go to our website, and we do have our link available. You can do, or you can just drop us an email. We'll be more than happy. 3 o'clock, please do join back again. You will be receiving an email immediately after signing off containing the link for 3 o'clock, though we have already sent it to everyone, but this is just to request you do come back at 3 o'clock. And we look forward to having yet another talk, by our international global speaker, Professor Lamirel, on challenges for injecting intelligence in digital libraries. So we look forward to having you back again. Stay connected. It has truly been a pleasure for DELNET having each one of you with us. Thank you very much, one and all. God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you.